Hey y'all, thanks for checking out this video. In this session, I have set out 5 stationary targets. You can see one kind of in the bottom right corner. They're yellow and they're set not quite in a rectangle. I set them a little closer together, closer to the camera so I could hopefully catch them on film. And then the ones that are up the hill are a little bit further away from each other, but that gave us kind of varying distances between them, which I think is helpful too. And then I have one in the center. So it's basically a lopsided rectangle with a single target in the center. And I'm going to talk less about what I'm actually doing moment by moment and more about my system that I've kind of used to work on some of these more energetic and mounted behaviors and with building duration. So early on, before I even started riding Finnick, we spent a ton of time with these stationary targets, and I would set them on the ground and use a handheld target to kind of lead him from one to the next, rewarding when he touched the next target that I was leading him towards. And we made it more and more challenging by spreading them apart, and then eventually when I said keep going, it meant to pass up one target and go to the next. And we've worked a lot on that. We have a ton of reinforcement history. And once we got that down pretty well, it became, sometimes I want you to walk to the target and actually stop and touch it, and you get rewarded for that. But other times it's when you're going towards it, I'm going to click that, because it's less about actually touching the target and more about going the direction that I'm suggesting, and the target becomes just kind of a clue. But I didn't do that until the touching the target was really solid. And if I don't click and continue to let him walk towards it and don't say anything else, like don't say keep going, he will absolutely walk up and touch the target and reach towards it with his nose. I just usually end up clicking before that happens, because part of why I like the targets is to work on mobile behaviors, not just stationary behaviors. So that being said, with this giant pattern, this is not the place to start with these targets, but I have it set out in this giant oblong rectangle. And my goal with this riding session was to work on steering. So with that center target, it allows me to decide to turn into the center or switch directions, but then also working on different gaits. So he's pretty good with voice commands for most, for walk, trot, canter. It's not as reliable on our downward transitions, but I can rely on the click for that, and he's pretty good most of the time. But if I'm sending him to a target and I say target, and he's going towards the target, he'll usually stop when I click at the target. So anyway, that's a work in progress. So because of the way that I've kind of worked with him with these stationary targets, I've been able to build duration and also reinforce my steering in a way that makes a lot of sense to him. It gives him a goal to head towards, and it gives him a clue of what I'm asking without me having to really overly direct him from the saddle, if that makes sense. And so that's really part of why I love using this little system. I almost think of it as like a connect the dots, or like a crumb trail that we're just like following from dot to dot to dot. And some dots we're going to stop at, or we might skip certain ones. But that is a system that has worked really well for me and for this horse. It might not be for every horse, but it works really well for him. I find that giving them something to look towards, both horse and rider, really helps everyone kind of be on the same page, because it gives the rider something to focus on as well. And we all know you need to look where you want the horse to go. And it gives the horse something to focus on too. So again, you're all kind of on the same page. So this is the first time I've ever utilized a circle of sorts with trotting and cantering, this large mounted. So I've done something similar to what I'm doing here with 4 all in a line, working on transitions, walk, trot, canter, and then stopping with the targets all in a line. But this is the first time I've really worked on it in a circle, and you can see he's doing really well. We had a little tossing of the head because he picked up the incorrect lead, and then I think his balance was a little off one of those times that we were cantering. But for the most part, he's really doing well. And I know I post a lot of riding stuff, but I ride him once a week or less since I started riding him. And we've really done very little cantering and very little steering at the canter. Most of the times that we do cantering, it's because he offers it and I enjoy it. So I just, let him do it and then reward him. But it's typically just in a straight line, or if we're out with other horses, following the horse that's in front of him. So this is really the first turns at the canter with a rider that he's done. And they're big circles, but I'm super proud of how well he did. And it, again, because we had the targets set out and we had our little system, I wasn't having to fight him or overly aggressively ride to get him to do, quote, what I wanted to do, unquote. I was able to just put the little pattern out there and, I didn't know if he would do it, but my goal with this session was to be able to get him to trot a full circle each direction and also possibly canter a full circle each direction. And he did. Or at least most of a circle. I don't know that I actually got an exact full circle each way at all the different speeds, but he did. And we also, when he would get a little excited, we had some moments where we were just practicing walking in between, because I don't want to teach him that it's faster is always what gets him the reward. I'm kind of a go-y person and he's kind of sometimes a go-y horse. So as fun as that might be for me, I also realize that it's important to have some reinforcement for walking and slow trot and not the most energetic movement all the time. But yeah, I am super pleased with how this went. I really didn't know what to expect. So if you want to utilize this, get it really strong on the ground. Make it really, really consistent. You can do this in a stall, you can do it in a round pen, you can do it in a barn aisle, and just be consistent with using them. Even if you're not doing it for your whole training session, just get a target out or whatever. You can use whatever you want. I like these because they're light and cheap and durable, and they're not road cones, which just because those are everywhere, I don't want them to see it somewhere they shouldn't go, like in the middle of a road, and drag me over there. So I like that they're a little bit different. It's not something they see every day, but just put them in their path and reward them for walking to them or walking to them and touching them with their nose, and get it really consistent, build that reinforcement history, and then you'll be able to use that as a way to translate other parts of the world to them. Thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful. It was definitely a lot of fun to do.